Imagine discovering that men who lived thousands of years ago describe patterns that feel uncomfortably similar to the world you see now. Not cars, not satellites, but systems of power, surveillance, moral crises, and social collapse. Coincidence or foresight? What if the prophets were not speaking only to their own time, but to a repeating human cycle? This is not a religious question. It's an investigation. Because ancient records preserve warnings about societies that grow too fast, centralize authority, blur truth with propaganda, and trade values for convenience. Sound familiar? The tension begins here. Texts written in ancient deserts describing global empires, collective fear, and the sense that something unseen guides human decisions. We are not asking what you believe. We are asking, what exactly did they see, and why does it echo now? This matters because humanity has never been more connected and at the same time more uncertain about who truly controls the flow of information, resources, and narrative. Ancient prophecies speak less about magic and more about human behavior at scale. They describe societies reaching a point of moral, technological, and political saturation. When that happens, patterns repeat: consolidation of power, extreme polarization, collapsing trust. This is not blind faith. It is historical observation recorded in symbolic language. The question is simple. Are we living through just another human cycle, or a moment once described as inevitable, when past and present connect? Those texts begin to read like psychological maps of civilizations under pressure, and the parallels feel strikingly modern. Ancient prophets used symbols because they were describing forces larger than individual kings or local wars. Beasts represented empires. Turbulent seas symbolized restless populations. Marks indicated systems of identity and belonging. In modern language, this translates into power structures, social control, and collective identity. No mystical interpretation is required to see the pattern. Societies expand, accumulate power, build surveillance systems, and face internal crises that test their stability. These records describe charismatic leaders, promises of order amid chaos, and populations willing to exchange autonomy for security. These are not literal miracles. They are deep diagnostics of how humans respond when historical pressure intensifies. Now, look at the modern world. Global networks monitor data in real time. Interdependent economies react like a single organism. Narratives compete to shape perception. Prophetic language about marks, images, and voices reaching multitudes finds unsettling perils. In digital identity systems, omnipresent media, and algorithmic influence. This is not a claim of direct equivalence. It is an examination of patterns. When ancient texts describe systems that mold collective behavior, they are outlining mechanisms modern social science now confirms. Humans at scale respond to symbols, authority, and fear. The difference today is scale. Never have we possessed tools capable of amplifying these dynamics so completely. And that makes the parallels impossible to ignore. History reinforces the cycle. Previous empires also promised total stability. Rome offered order in exchange for submission. Centralized states justified surveillance as protection. Each time, the narrative was the same. Security first, questions later. Prophets recorded this pattern as a warning, not a condemnation. They describe the moment when a society believes it has achieved total control, and precisely there, vulnerability appears. The lesson is not supernatural. It is structural. When power, technology, and fear align, human decision-making tends to sacrifice freedom for predictability. This behavior repeats with near-mathematical precision across centuries. The moment of revelation arrives when we realize prophecy does not predict dates, it predicts behavior. The end described in many texts is not necessarily immediate physical destruction, but the climax of accumulated human choices. It is the point where systems built to protect begin to dominate. In modern terms, this resembles extreme technological dependence, erosion of institutional trust, and manipulation of perception. Prophecy functions like a mirror. It shows what happens when humanity prioritizes control over awareness. And the unsettling part, that mirror reflects patterns already visible, not hidden. Then comes the unavoidable question: are we recognizing the pattern while it unfolds, or only reacting to symptoms? Prophets warned about humanity's difficulty in noticing gradual change. Nothing begins as total crisis. It starts as convenience, efficiency, promises of stability. Each step appears rational in isolation. Together, they form a profound transformation. The warning is not against progress, but against collective unconsciousness. Societies rarely collapse from a single event. They transform slowly until the point of return disappears. That is the core of the ancient message. Mental vigilance, not fear. According to these records, the future is not a fixed destination, it is the logical outcome of repeated patterns. Prophecy suggests humanity continually faces the same test: how to wield power without becoming imprisoned by it. In a world where technology accelerates decisions and magnifies influence, that question has never been more urgent. What appears to be advancement may carry invisible costs, and ancient texts insist on a simple principle: awareness precedes survival. Not as religious doctrine, but as a civilizational strategy. In the end, the message is not about fearing tomorrow, it is about clarity today. The prophets were not describing inevitable monsters, but predictable human choices. They recorded the map. We are living the terrain. The lingering question is not whether the world matches prophecy, but whether we recognize the pattern in time to act with lucidity. Every generation believes it is the exception until it realizes it is part of a very old cycle. And if a signal has been traveling across centuries, it is simple: observe, question, remain aware. The transmission has always been active. The only uncertainty is who is listening.